Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another episode of the No Name Podcast. You are now locked in, tuned into J Juju, St. Paul, and my guy Ish. Also, that is not a noun, and we have a legend, a true king upon kings, if you would like to take the title, Rahiem, who is part of one of the first hip hop groups ever to bless us with hip hop and rap and culture. Grandmaster Flash in the Furious 5, but before that, the Furious 4. And also, thank you so much, King, for joining us this evening for the No Name Podcast powered by IAmHipHop. How are you doing? How's life? How's
COVID
been treating you?
Thank you all for having me. I'm just like a pimple on a supermodel's face. I'm just very happy to be here. You know what I mean?
I like that one. I like that.
Yeah, I'll take that. But look, we ain't trying to pop you just yet. We want you to stand out. Or be the focus of attention on this situation.
That's gonna be my pickup line.
Baby, I'm like a pimple on your face. What? Oh, what? I stand out.
Right.
I might actually have to record that. So just because obviously before we started to record, we're now looking at the backdrop for your current new space, as you just said, and we noticed that you've done the mink drop to say that, this is my new crib. So if anyone like I said, that's that fur. So if you're not mistaken,
wait. Here you go. I got
yes. Oh, here we go. Right. So, oh my God.
What? The show is over. The show is over. We don't even have to interview. The show is over right now.
Yeah, for real. Okay. I don't care how much money you got you on IG. I don't care how much money you got you flashing around. Unless you can afford to drop your fizzer on the floor to say, "This is me." You ain't got nothing, son. We're not talking. That's real. That's real. That's real. That's real.
That's OG right there, man. Seriously. Them young kids don't know about that. They don't know about that.
No, but this becomes viral. That's gonna become a trend. That's gonna be a new TikTok. Mink drop.
Exactly. You heard it here first.
That's right.
You heard it here first.
That's right. Instrumental. We just need the dope instrumental or something like that.
And it's slow-mo as well, because that's like the way you start fling down that power walk. It was just like, yeah.
You know how it would work too if you do it in slow-mo, like super slow motion.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Even the walk up, it's like, I got you. Do.
Right.
That would just be brilliant.
Absolutely.
Oh man, but for me, this is a monumental moment. Like real talk.
Yo, seriously, for me too, bro. Cause we've been all over in the UK. Shout out to Leeds, Loughborough, Manchester, London, Brixton. You know what I mean? Like, come on, man. Like we've been all over that joint.
100. And so this is the difference between someone who's actually been here, toured here, and knows the boroughs. So thank you very much for even getting the pronunciations right, because we've spoken to a few who haven't. So you can see. So shout out to all of the men's there. You can even put Liverpool, Wales, Scotland, Ireland.
I'm a home bloke.
Yeah. Oh wow. Look. You can get it two ways, my friend. I can get absolutely politically correct with you and talk teas and crumpets, or you know what, blood? I have to get street with you in it, fam. Like it don't matter which way it is, cuz in it. Like, are you down or what in it? Like it's a blizzy, fam. It's a blizzy.
Yo.
Oh Lord. Oh wow. Yeah. No. Oh yeah.
This is the best right now.
But I definitely want to say one thing. Thank you for everything that you and your crew did, and your crews did. Thank you so much for bringing something out of nothing, in a sense that people could probably call like street poetry, or the fact that, just making something in a situation where there was nothing really to kind of bring forth. And the fact is as well that this is before you were doing your thing before records were cut.
Right.
So that's another thing altogether, you know, like, and the fact that it was an inspiration where it didn't just stick to the Bronx, it didn't just stick to like New NY, it then spread. It became then a absolutely viral, worldwide phenomenon. Like you got artists that are spitting in every country in their own language with their own flow, their own feelings. There's like, you know, we've got obviously still got our party rappers, we've got our politicals, you know, there's so much power behind what you have contributed to. So first, that's why I say real talk, like from the bottom of my heart, bottom of my soul, thank you for this, because hip-hop has solidly shaped and formed my life as a person and my outlook to stuff as well. And also it's always been a good topic of conversation. That's not gonna lie, no matter how viral, like, you know, vicious it may get. So thank you so much for that, Rahiem. Like real talk. And also thanks for the get down as well, but we'll hopefully touch on that in a little bit as well. But what I wanted to just to kick it off a little, because I've watched a few of your interviews. I know has your autobiography ready and done? Or are you still working on it at the moment?
I'm still working on it. It's almost done. End of January, early February.
Dope.
It should be done. Yeah.
And are you doing an audio version as well, or is it just going to be?
Definitely.
Oh, wicked, cool. That's it. I'm sold, 100% sold. Something to listen, definitely to listen to. But and obviously we've got to wait for that to be released. But what I'm more interested to know is like what was it like growing up, especially in NY during those times? You know, what was your experience like from a kid up to when you first started? You know, when you went to high school and you met your influence to start rapping.
Well, there were a lot of different things going on in the Bronx during that time. You know, one of the main things that was going on was the all of the social programs that kids used to have access to and go to. You know, after school. You know, there were after school programs. You could go there. It was usually held at your school, and you know, it was after school hours, and you would usually go there. And you know, if you were a latchkey kid, meaning you know your parents work while you're home, you would go to the after school program. You could get extra help with your homework. You know, they engaged us in different sports activities, and it was just basically a means of keeping kids off the street during the 70s. And so I believe it was Gerald Ford. Gerald Ford, I believe, was the president at the time of the United States. And New York was doing pretty badly as far as financially. And they, the governor of New York at the time requested additional federal funding. And Ford, it made headlines. It said on the Daily News, Ford to city, drop dead. And so all of the social programs lost their federal funding. And so kids were turned to the street. We had no place to go. And so we wound up on the streets of New York City. And so as a result of that, gangs were rampant, youth gangs. And so the largest gang in New York City at that time was called the Black Spades. And the Black Spades, one of their territories was not far from the neighborhood that I grew up in. The neighborhood I grew up in was called Lambert Houses. And so the guys from the Black Spades, from the older Black Spades, would come over to Lambert Houses from Bronx River Houses, which is where Africa Bambaataa lived. And there was a division of the Black Spades that he wound up becoming the leader of eventually after he changed gangs from being he was initially a savage nomad, and then he became a Black Spade later on.
Wow.
So after he became a Black Spade, the division of the Black Spades that were under his leadership in Bronx River Projects, they would come over to Lambert houses and rob everything and everybody. And the only reason why they never robbed me was because I was best friends with a dude named Davy Waters. And Davy Waters' older brother, we called him Wild Man Steve. And Wild Man Steve and Davy Waters were from Bronx River.
Right.
They actually moved from Bronx River to Lambert houses with their mom. And so when the gang, when the Black Spades from Bronx River would come over to Lambert houses to rob everybody, they didn't rob Wild Man Steve and they didn't rob Dave because they were from Bronx River. And so they didn't rob me because Dave was my best friend. But even though they didn't rob me, they kind of like sunned me.
Right.
They sunned me. So when the young Black Spades, when the baby Spades would ride over to Lambert houses on their bicycles to extort everybody that the older Black Spades didn't rob, on the way over to Lambert houses on their bikes, they would always take the same route, and it would be a lot of broken glass and stuff. And so a few of them would always have flat tires. So the way that they sunned me was they found out what apartment that I lived in. I lived with my mom. It was a duplex apartment. Now, my older brothers, they were killers, but they were all incarcerated. So I didn't have any protection at the time.
Wow.
So this gang of dudes come up to my, I had an exit door in my bedroom, which was on the 5th floor, but the front door to get in our apartment was on the 4th floor. So these guys knew that my room was on the 5th floor. So they would take the elevator to the 5th floor and walk to the end of the hall and knock on my door. And my middle name is Todd. So they would call me by my government middle name and be like, yo, Todd, fix Cecil's flat, fix Mackey's flat, fix Dolan's flat, fix Kendu's flat. And so the first time that they came and asked me, or not asked me, demanded that I fix these dudes' flats, I'm like, yo, like, fuck out of here. Like, what I look like, flat fix? You know what I mean? So they was like, yo, you don't get it. Like, we a gang and you one dude. Like, we will beat your ass. You gonna fix some flats today. So I said, you know what? All right, you got a point there. All right, no problem. I'm gonna fix some flats today. All right?
Yeah.
So I fixed flat tires, fixed these guys' bicycle flats for 3 consecutive summers. Every time they would ride around Lambert houses and one of them or a few of them get flats, they always bring it to my apartment. So the last summer that they brought their bikes up to my room to have me fix flats, it just so happened that I got down with a crew, and I started rapping, and we were giving parties, and we became pretty popular very fast. And so these guys, when they came to have me fix their flats, I heard them when they got off the elevator because they had a boombox, and they were playing a tape of the last jam, of the last party that I did with my new crew called the Brothers Disco, DJ Breakout, DJ Baron, and the original Funky 4 MCs. Right? Yeah. So they're coming down the hall, and by the time they get to my door, on the tape, I'm rhyming. So I open the door, and I'm saying the rhyme with myself on the tape. and these guys are looking at me like I'm a fucking Martian or something. Like, yo, you don't know shit about like the Brothers Disco, DJ Breakout, and DJ Baron and the Funky 4 MCs. They were like, you.
I was like, wait, I'm one of them four, but okay.
Right. And I'm like, yo, I said, yo, now I'm still saying the rhyme, but then I stop and I'm like, yo, what do you mean I don't know nothing about this? I said, that's me. And then they're like, get the fuck out of here. Get like surround sound, right? And so I said, yo, that is me. What are you talking about? So they say, yo, stop the fucking tape. So they stopped the tape. And one of them is like, yo, you know what? You better not fucking be lying to us. All right. Say some Rahiem shit right now. And if you're lying to us, we're gonna beat your ass.
Prove how is that? Prove that you. I want you to prove that you.
Now I gotta say my shit under.
I'm not gonna lie. If that was me for 1 second, I know I'll F up a little bit in the beginning. Like I'll be like, "Am I Rahiem?"
Some real stuff. If that was like the new version of American Idol, I would watch it.
Yeah, for real. No, I would actually. No, that's real. That's it. What happens when a whole gang comes to your door with a boombox playing your shit, telling that ain't you? Prove
Right.
it's you. What's right there? That means cut the story. That's just funny.
Yeah. You better say some Rahiem shit right now. All right? And you better not be lying, or we gonna beat that ass.
And we've got buzzers.
Right.
Process of elimination, son.
Right.
Process of elimination.
So I gotta say my shit under pressure.
Yeah.
I can't stutter. I can't forget. All right. So I give them like almost a whole fucking notebook full of shit.
Wow.
Dope.
And like their mouths hit the floor like, oh shit, yo, he's fucking Rahiem. Yo, you stupid asses. They're like, oh shit, yo, you guys are doing a jam at the T Connection in like 2 weeks. Yo, we your security. I'm like, all right, cool. Y'all my security. I never fixed another flat again.
Wow.
Yo, that's a story and a half, man. So, oh Jesus, what do you kind of follow up from that? Like, but okay, so now you've obviously come. Now you've got your protection. You know, you've got obviously 3 summers deep. Also, just a quick one: is that where the in the message where the lyric broken glass everywhere?
Yeah. Well, I don't think necessarily that lyric came from that experience, because that was my personal experience.
Right.
But I mean, if you lived in the Bronx, that could have very well have been your experience, because there was broken glass everywhere and there was people pissing on the stairs everywhere. So yeah.
I mean, that's the actual, because I mean, for someone, especially here in the UK, who's, that whole experience for us is always, we get to see it, but always on a TV screen. So that's why I'm always kind of infatuated by the upbringing and the stories and how things are. Because it's like, as they call it, it's like the hood stories, things that you only sort of like, pick up if you know someone from out there or someone who's kind of gone through the whole thing. And also one thing that I've respected about, a lot of the, looking into your previous interviews is that you're very honest and trying to keep it clear cut. Because like you said, it's like, whilst we're still alive, we might as well tell our story, because we're the only ones who can actually tell it.
Right.
So now you've obviously, you're now in that mix of things, but what I kind of probably moving a bit ahead on the needle, so skipping a little bit and dancing. Park jams. How did that whole thing come about? What was that experience like? What difficulties did you have? I'm sure because neighbors ain't probably going to be happy that there's a whole bunch of kids blasting out music. What was that whole experience like?
So the park jams happened as a result of not having places to go. The summertime in New York City, New York City summers are unforgettable, and you don't really have to have money. to have a lot of fun, especially if you're a kid in New York City. You know, the New York City's backdrop is the playground. You know what I mean? There's just so many things to do. And, you know, honestly, if you're not from New York City and you look up and down New York City streets, you'd be like, well, where the hell are the places for kids to play? But, you know, I know you've heard the saying, necessity is the mother of invention.
Yes.
So, you know, out of, you know, a rose grew out of the crack in the concrete.
You know I love that.
And so no matter how desolate, no matter how barren, no matter how much the Bronx compared to other boroughs of New York City, especially in the early, mid, and late 70s, no matter how dilapidated it appeared to be, it was very much alive. Right. And the soul of the Bronx is what helped to I guess make the spirit of hip hop viral.
Right.
Yeah.
There was a car service, a cab service called OJ Car Service.
Right. Yeah.
OJ Car Service was one of the main reasons how rap music traveled from borough to borough. From the Bronx, it was how dudes in Manhattan, Brooklyn, and Queens got to hear Grandmaster Flash and the Furious Five before we made a record.
Oh, wow.
And DJ Breakout and DJ Baron and the Funky Four before they made a record. The Fantastic Five and Grand Wizard Theodore before they made a record. DJ Charlie Chase and the Cold Crush Brothers before they made a record. So there was a record shop in the Bronx called Rhythm Den that was owned and run by a man who owned a club uptown in the Bronx called the T Connection, and his name was Richard T. So Richard T owned Rhythm Den, the record shop, and he owned the T Connection. And so all of the aspiring new rap artists who performed at the T Connection, whenever we would perform at the T Connection, Richard T would record our parties and put it on a cassette tape. And then the cassette tapes, he would sell them out of his record shop, Rhythm Den.
Right.
So then the OJ Car Service, the cab drivers that drove for them, they'd want music, selection of music in their cars. So they would go to Rhythm Den and buy party tapes of all of the rap groups that did parties during that time. And so the very trendy thing to do during that time with OJ Car Service was to do what's called put an OJ on hold. So all of the biggest drug dealers, the biggest stick-up kids, or if you just had money and you were from the hood, you knew that, and you didn't have your own car, you knew that you could call OJ and put an OJ on hold. And putting an OJ on hold was basically having the car at your disposal for an hour. You can put it on hold for longer than an hour, but putting an OJ on hold for an hour costs $25. And so it would either wait for you while you took care of your business for an hour, or it would take you to a destination and drop you off and maybe pick you up and take you, to your final destination afterwards. But whenever they sent a car for you, it was always a luxury car, and it always had a cassette tape of one of the popular rap crew's parties.
Oh, wow.
So that's how rap music before records spread to all of the boroughs of New York City.
That's crazy. But it's also just goes to show exactly the how much the support network was and exactly what kind of flavor and feeling that you get. Because you try to say that now to an Uber driver, that ain't gonna work in any way, shape, or form. Uber and Lyft have not got your back like that.
Exactly.
It's just it don't work the same. But that's insane. But I mean, but what was your first performance like at a park jam as well? Like, what were your
my first performance, let's see, my first performance at a park jam. I want to say my first performance at a park jam was as a member of the Funky Four, and we performed in this park called the Valley Park, and it was jam packed with people, and it felt like we were in Madison Square Garden, like there were so many people out there, and the energy, it was just completely electric, like when we said, say ho, it was like a roar. Wow. You know what I mean? Like you don't want to ask the audience to say anything, because when they respond, they're gonna scream you off the whole, like off the planet. You know what I mean?
Wow, that's amazing.
And it was electric and magical because of the command that we had, the control and the command that we had over our audiences. I remember, there was a time when there's this one particular record that Flash used to play, and without fail, every single time that he played this particular song, somebody got robbed. Somebody got stuck up at our parties. And we would beg him not to play it, but the record was absolutely sick, like sick. It's the name of the song is called "Listen to Me," and it's by an artist named Baby Huey, and it's like one of the b-boy anthems, one of the early b-boy anthems. But for whatever reason, now most of the stick-up kids from back in the 70s and early 80s, they didn't smoke weed and they didn't sniff coke.
Wow.
They smoked angel dust.
Oh, that's worse.
And exactly. And for whatever the reason, whenever Flash would play this song, "Listen to Me," and the dust head stick-up kids heard it, it was like shining the bat signal or something, like letting them know it's okay to rob people now. And that's what happened.
Right.
Every time. Okay. And we beg them not to play it.
I mean, but it's like you said, it's like that feeling of but yeah, that's crazy though. I mean, the bat signal thing, but I kind of get that. It's like almost like even now when we hear certain songs or a certain genre of music, especially when you're that juiced up, automatically that kind of animal just kind of takes over.
Comes out of you, yeah. Like I can't listen to Tupac when I'm under the influence of any alcohol and I'm behind the wheel of a car. No, it's not safe. It's not safe.
At least you're honest. That's the truth. That's the thing. Like, once again, at least you're honest. Some people be like, no, I'm cool. I'm like, ride it down. La. What you doing, son? It's pop.
Right.
Yeah, no, I feel you. I completely feel you. But thanks once again for sharing, because I mean, as someone who DJs and still DJ, not as much as I used to, but yeah, that feeling of when you get the crowd underneath your sway, when you know that they're completely with you. Like it's that electricity that a lot of people will probably search for their whole life, but they'll never ever kind of understand it, where because it's like reciprocal. It's like you're giving, they're receiving, but they're just giving it back to you. So
exactly.
And you want to give it back just as hard.
They're giving you the energy that you give to them, and it's like we're all, you know, we all operate based on frequencies. And so if you could harness the frequency in the room when one of those jams are happening, like and capture that energy, like, man,
but that's gonna be more dangerous than crack. And you grew up during the crack era as well, so you were there during that whole thing. So
absolutely.
100% get us. Like, but then again, effectively they kind of done that because like you're very, you know, especially educated and spiritually you're in tune as well. So, you know, like I know is that, you know, beats and rhythms, those frequencies control how we are as humans, because we're mostly made out of water. So that kind of makes sense anyways, the vibrations. And then when you add a narrative or a message to it, all of a sudden how you feel completely changes. So like one of the biggest things that's always been, I suppose what I've always been upset about is the more that hip-hop artists that I kind of resonate more so with would be like, if you're talking more current style, but not kind of current, but you got your like your Nas's, your Khaled, your most, you know, just on a few lighter heads.
Right.
But not to go through the whole list because we'll be here for days, but you know, there's like literally such a powerful message in the stories and the intricateness of it all, and it's not just focused on, you know, the party side of what environments kind of come into. So that's why, like, you know, where we've now gone from where you guys kicked it all off, you guys and girls, like even the first female MCs, and you know, really kind of bringing this whole vibe together, and then all of a sudden it then becomes heavily commercialized, and now it gets put for a whole blender, and now it's like, once again, if you can profit off it, we're going to work off it. But it doesn't, like, that music's still out there, but you have to go and crate dig for it. But no one really knows about that.
You know, unbeknownst to many people, here in the States, so there was a changing of the guard, and it happened overnight, and you know, while everybody was asleep, and then when we woke up, there was a new regime in place, and I'm referring to gangster rap.
Right.
So now in 1989. Public Enemy released "Fight the Power," right?
Yeah.
And so, you know, if you recall, when PE released that song, when the video premiered, I don't know how you guys felt, but the video gave me goosebumps.
Yes,
it made me. It made me feel, because, you know, I was born in the 60s, so it brought me back to, you know, the civil rights movement. It brought me back to the Nation of Islam when Malcolm X was alive. It brought me back to Marcus Garvey, Noble Drew Ali. It brought me back to that time. I'm getting goosebumps saying this right now, by the way.
Yeah.
So, and the powers that be, they recognized that. They saw that was becoming a movement again. All right. And they absolutely did not want that. So in 1990, a company called Corrections Corporations of America, the largest independent facilitator of privately owned penitentiaries in America, made deals with 48 states in America to have a privately owned penitentiary erected in that respective state, based on the condition that respective state could maintain a 90% incarceration rate.
Yep.
So if every day of your young, impressionable life, all you hear from your favorite artist, who's probably in your ear more hours a day than your parent or your teacher,
facts,
and they're telling you that the very blueprint to their success was to stand nearest corner, sell mollies, Percocets, kill niggas, fuck hoes. Okay, a percentage of the population who's most influenced by that message becomes that.
Yeah.
That's called the power of suggestion.
Yep.
And it's profoundly subtle, but it's profoundly powerful.
And effective.
And
Stupidly effective. Because the fact is, like,
oh, go ahead.
Sorry to cut. It's just like because the fact is, it seemed at first they were concentrating on us because, like you said, from that one video, Public Enemy fight. But even the same way I look at it, I mean, for when I was younger, you kind of just feel like, yo, it almost feels like a million strong, and in the sense of referring back to the work that Martin and Malcolm and everyone did, especially during the civil rights movement. But it was just the fact, you can look at it and you just feel empowered. It's like, you know what, it's cool. But what we're trying, and the fact is, we're not trying to be fully in your faces. But what became then even more twisted and convoluted, because once again, greed is such a nasty thing, is they didn't care if you were black now anymore. They just cared if you were underneath a certain bracket. Right. If you believed in a glass ceiling, then they will go for everyone that was underneath that glass ceiling. They did not care anymore because once again, they had to keep up to the 90% incarceration rates. Right. And you can't do that with, I mean, don't get me wrong, it's unproportional in the amount of black people that are, or ethnic people that are locked up. But when you really break it down, like there's still categorically here in the UK and where you are, there's still more white than there is black. Verbatim. Right. So they're going to be, once again, that's the things that they don't show you is how many of them are locked up in those situations is. So we kind of get misguided into this whole situation, but then we allow ourselves to be led because it seems like, oh yeah, well, this is where consumerism has become such a vile and vicious thing. They will show you the cars, they will show you the things. But for me, I think the biggest things that started to break it down was when I converted from like the Source to Triple XL magazine or King Mag. Even from changing one magazine, your whole narrative on the culture changes. Yep, and absolutely. That was the days from when I'm picking up them off from the shelves. Like I was like, you know what? Forget the Source anymore. I mean, don't be wrong. I like the pictures and who they used to get. But when you go to Triple XL, they were the ones that were covering the bleaching of the skin. They were the ones who were covering, like how the industry was being, literally extorted for everything it was, how we're being misguided and led. So, and then also that, a lot of these artists that you're seeing with all these jewels and all this other stuff and all the, beautiful women in clubs.
All smoke and mirrors.
Yeah. On some Houdini shit, like real talk. But on a lighter note, before we get without as much as I'd love to have you like literally for a few hours just to talk about life.
Yo, I'll come back whenever you want, whenever you guys want, yo.
I appreciate it. I definitely no. For me, that definitely means the world. But what I want to know. So obviously, I think it was 1979, May 11th is the date that I think that rings in my head when you battled the Funky Four versus the Furious Four and Barrier Four with Grandmaster Flash. So you got picked up because it's like, yo, Ra is killing it. Like, yo, that's cool. But what I want to know out of that, what was it like your first your first one-on-one with Grandmaster Flash? What was it like, when you got to just chill with him? What was that experience like?
Grandmaster Flash, he's a scientist.
Oh yeah.
And so when the very first time that I got to say words to Flash, and he actually said words back to me. I went up to him. He was in the DJ booth at this club in Harlem called Harlem World, and I had just became a member of the group.
Right.
He didn't know because the Furious Four and Flash at the time, they weren't working together. They had, they had beef. Like they were, they had a manager named Ray Chandler who coincidentally is the uncle of Damon Dash. Right.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, exactly.
Plot thickens.
And so, so Ray Chandler was taking much better care of Flash and Flash's protege DJs, Disco B and DJ Easy Mike, than he was taking care of the Furious Four at the time. So they didn't want to work with Flash and Ray for that reason, and they were kind of like protesting or whatever. So the DJ who actually DJ'd for the Furious Four when. Well, no. Okay, I skipped ahead. All right, so let me go back. So May 11th, 1979, Webster Avenue, PAL. Grandmaster Flash, Furious Four, Breakout, Baron, Funky Four. Okay, so they won the battle. Melly Mel, and at the time his name was Mr. Ness. He later changed it to Scorpio. Came to my mom's house a few days after they won the battle, and they said, Rahiem, we like the way you do your thing or whatever. We want you to join our group. So I was like, all right, well, give me, they was like, you don't have to tell us today, take a few days or whatever, think about it and get back to us. I said, okay. So one of my OGs, he's like my big brother, his name was DJ Eminem, rest in peace. He hired the Furious Four to perform at a community center, Forest Houses Community Center. That's actually the neighborhood where Diamond D and Fat Joe and Showbiz and AG are from.
Right.
Okay, so we perform in this community center, and DJ Eminem was from around my block. So I performed with DJ Eminem and the Eminem crew first, and then I performed by myself. And then the DJ who was DJing for the Furious Four, and the Furious Four and myself actually had been rehearsing for a few weeks together before that performance, so that we could actually have some kind of routine to perform together live. Since I was gonna be a member of the group. And so the DJ that we were rehearsing with, who actually played our DJ that night, was legendary DJ Charlie Chase.
Oh wow!
Cold Crush Brothers, but there was no such thing as the Cold Crush Brothers at that time. The Cold Crush Brothers didn't become a cohesive group until 1981. So we were going to Charlie Chase's house every day rehearsing, and so he DJ'd for us that night on stage. And then after we performed together, after the Furious Four and myself performed together, when we went backstage, they called me in the dressing room and they asked me how much money I wanted. And I was like, well, you know what? M didn't tell me. We didn't negotiate any price for me to get paid for this joint. So this is on me. You know what I mean? It's all good. I just wanted an opportunity to perform with you guys because I think you're the best. And they were like, well, how about if we just split the money up 5 ways, because we think that you're just as good as any one of us. So we just gonna split the money up 5 ways. I'm like, I bet. And so we called ourselves the Furious Five after that. So fast forward, I was like tremendously excited to tell Flash that I was one of his MCs, because Flash was the DJ that every MC wanted cutting behind him. You know what I mean? So when I heard that Flash was DJing at Harlem World, I made it my business to go down there, and I go to the DJ booth and I go over to him. Now, he never met me before. He only knows my name. He knows my name because my name is ringing alarms in the street, but he never met me physically before. So I don't know if he even knew what I looked like. So I go to the DJ booth and I'm like, yo, Flash. And he's like, yo, like
I work it.
I know that. Right? And I'm like, yo,
the booth shop.
Right. I'm always enthusiastic like a kid on Christmas. And finally, he looks at me and was like, "What? What?" I'm like, yo, I'm Rahiem. He was like, "All right, it's fucking nice to meet you, Rahiem."
I would not lie, but I know that exact feeling, especially when you're in the mid. And bearing in mind, this is the time where this is where DJing is started from, so the level of concentration must have been on the next. Just, what? Okay, nice to meet you, bro. Furious 5, other than 4. Cool.
Right. And then I say to him, "Yo, Flash, I have fucking great news." He's like, "Yo, tell me whatever the fuck you gotta tell me, and then hurry up and get the
I can so see him saying that as well, and with his usual kind of, bro, you know, his kind of weird bland tone.
I'm like, yo, Flash, guess what? We changed the name of the MCs. We're the Furious 5 now. He's like, we'll have to see about that. Get out of here. Get out of here.
Yo.
Oh, especially now.
Assassinated my enthusiasm, ladies and gentlemen.
But in some way, somehow that made you stronger. I don't know how, but it still did.
Look, I'm the youngest member of the group, and when I first joined the group, so you know, these guys, they're jokesters, they're pranksters, and like, if you got thin skin, you're not gonna last 5 minutes around these guys, especially like Melly Mel and Cowboy. They used to snap on each other all the time. You know, snaps is like, you know, joking.
Cussing. What we'll call this cussing. Yeah.
So when I first got in the group, I was the butt end of every joke. But that's because they didn't know that it was a no-no to joke on me.
Right.
So snap back. I'm not gonna clap back. I'm gonna snap back.
Clap back for days. And my shit is side splitting. You know? So one day, Melly Mel, I don't know what the issue was, but it was just fuck with Rahiem day. And so he's like relentlessly like coming for me every time I turn around. And then the clapback was just fucking classic. Like like when I and I don't even remember exactly like verbatim what I said, but he we used to when we first started touring, whenever we would stop at a truck stop, he made it like his ritual to like buy all of these different like little mementos and memorabilia from these different truck stops. Right. So so he had like a I don't know what the thing was that he had them hanging on, but he bought this hat. He bought this hat, and then he hung all of these trinkets from the hat. Right. And so after a while, like the hat looked like fucking Christmas tree or something, because he had like all these decorations or these ornaments hanging off the hat. And so I'm like, yo, you look like a complete fucking Christmas jackass. Like,
yes.
like with lights and shit.
You're looking like a ghetto Crocodile Dundee out in this moment. This ain't a night. This is a night.
And so the thing about Melly Mel is he can dish it out, but he can't take it. So when I was lighting that ass up, he after a while he just what's the coward?
He wanted to sulking.
Yeah, exactly. Like so they learned after a while, don't snap on Rahiem. At all. Like don't
Duly noted for
not
future
going to snap on.
But I mean, hell, man. But this is what I'm saying. It's like this is the thing that I appreciate so much. It's just like such a wealth of history and knowledge, which is actually going to tap me kind of into a little bit of a segue, because you've mentioned that there's the construction of the hip hop museum. Is that still, because I think you're supposed to start working 2019. Obviously, we've had this whole mass of a pandemic and the whole mess up. Where are we at with the hip hop museum at the moment?
I'm not completely certain. I am one of the board members, but I haven't been really in the loop. Maybe I would say probably since a little before COVID hit.
Right.
Because I've been in a transitional stage. I moved from Virginia to New Jersey, and and prior to the move, I was just involved in a business. Oh, there we go.
All right, go. Oh, go ahead.
Sorry about Rahiem. Yeah. So
go back to the beginning.
To the beginning. So you're saying that you've been within a transitional stage, and
I was in a transitional stage, and so I didn't have the luxury or the time to check in with my associates at the Universal Hip Hop Museum.
Oh, okay.
As regularly as I would have liked to. Okay. But from my understanding, I still like get email from them almost every day. They're very visible in social media, so I'm sure that everything is still a go as far as the museum being erected and that sort of eventually. I just don't know. I think it's 2022 was the projected date that they were going to have it finished.
So, well, at least, I mean, for the way things are looking right now, because
it doesn't appear. They're going to start it in 2020. I don't know if it'll be finished
by then. But but at least then, hopefully, this whole thing will be behind us, so I can at least travel out there for the first time. So definitely want to go out and check that stuff. So what I was, because I know Ishmael wanted to ask a few questions as well.
No, you got this, man.
I don't want to lie, but I'm just like, you just got me literally hip-hop out like 100%.
I got my hands on my lap. I'm just into this. I'm a fan right now. Keep the questions going, bro.
So in a sense, with the so obviously now we're gonna skip forward a lot. I mean, I'd love to get into a lot more intricates, but working with Netflix, the Get Down, that whole production. So I mean, you were working with Nas as well, who was on board, working with Grandmaster Flash. So what I was going to ask before we get into the depths of that, so what's the relationship now like with you, Flash, and the surviving members of the Furious Five, and those who you established yourself with?
It's extremely estranged. Grandmaster Flash and I, we're okay. We don't talk really unless there's some circumstance, some event, some accolades that we're going to receive or something like that. But other than that, we don't really talk, and we don't talk. Melly Mel and I and Scorpio and I, we don't talk at all. Melly Mel and Scorpio talk to each other. They're cool. They're just not cool with me.
Right. I know. Are you gonna get into a bit more depth of that in the autobiography, or is that just something that you're gonna keep as in
Well,
family
no, I mean,
business?
I can share it right here, right now.
Please, well, if you don't mind, I just don't want. I don't want to step on eggs or toes.
No, not at all. No one hushes me or says to me, "Shut up and sit down," because it doesn't work.
That's fair. Appreciate it.
And so, you know, if you cut me, I bleed, and I'm gonna say that you cut me. I'm not gonna cower in the corner and nurse my wounds and just be quiet about it, because I need for everybody to know who you are, because you might cut somebody else. Right. You know what I mean? So, you know, in saying that, all I've ever done was be a loyal member of a group. Right. Okay, that's all I ever did, as a member of Grandmaster Flash and the Furious Five, and that's all I've ever wanted to do, was just be a member of the group. Right. I didn't really care to be the front man. I was actually the front man when I was a member of the Funky Four. Right. And if you have a conversation with Grandmaster Flash to this day, and you ask him which one of the Furious Five was his best MC, he won't say Melly Mel. He'll say Rahiem. And the reason why is because he knows us intimately, and he knows our strengths, and he knows our weaknesses. And I toned it down to be a member of their group. I toned it down because I wanted to fit in. Right. Right. And the reason why I'm not saying that I'm, the end all be all. What I am saying is what I brought to the table was unique. Right. And the reason why they wanted me in their group was because none of them had what I had. Facts. Okay. Yeah. So, and the reason why the Funky Four was their antithesis when I was a member is because I was a member. And it gave the Funky Four an edge that the Furious Four didn't have. Now, the Furious Four won the battle. And the reason why they won the battle was because they used, they did something that completely threw us off guard, which was they were the more popular crew, give or take a few people or whatever. Yeah. But we were on their ass, like as far as talent and appeal. So, but in order for them to not seem as though they were, I guess for lack of a better word, biting off of us or copying us, they went on before us. They went on before us, and when they went on before us, they did everything that we were gonna do. They did it first. So, they sung songs, and they had choreographed dance routines, and we were planning to sing songs, and we had choreographed dance routines. Wow. Now, the difference between our the songs that we were going to sing and the songs that they were going to sing was that I was going to be leading on the songs that we were singing, and I can sing. Yeah, because and these guys, Melly Mel and those guys, none of them could sing. So that's the reason. That was one of the main reasons why they wanted me to be in their group. Gotcha. Ah, right. Okay. Makes sense. And so when we battled, when it was our turn to go on stage, I changed my mind at the last minute, and decided that the Funky Four was not going to perform any of the things that we had been practicing for about a month.
Wow.
Leading up to that battle, because I was pissed off that these guys just did pretty much.
Of course. That's straight bite. That's straight biting.
So then I said to myself, you know what? We can't win this battle. We can't win this battle, but I can win. I said, I can win. And so I didn't tell the members of my group, the Funky Four, what I was going to do. But I was the first one to get on the mic. And when I got on the mic, I stayed on the mic, and I didn't pass the mic for maybe about a half hour or 40 minutes. And I went Allen Iverson his first year in the NBA.
I'm just dunking on you. I'm just dunking on you for threes. Butter, just butter.
So, as a result of that, well, while I was performing and you know, going for mine, Grandmaster Flash and the Furious Four were standing in the audience, and they was like ice grilling me the whole time. But I was doing my thing so hard and so well, the audience was cheering me on like crazy. And then it got contagious. Grandmaster Flash and the Furious Four caught what the audience caught, and they were enthusiastically giving me, you know, the signs. And so that's what made me know that I was capable of being, you know, sharing the stage with these guys.
Yeah, and you definitely earned it.
Definitely.
So
also,
if I
Juju, let me take this for a moment.
Cool. Yeah, go on,
let's play a what if scenario.
Sure.
What if your squad won? Do you think it would be your crew today in the Furious 5 if things change? If you guys actually won?
4 had won, there would be no Furious 5.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, if the Funky Four had won, there would be no Furious 5. But for me, I didn't feel as though every member of the every member of the Funky Four had the same internal fire. I didn't feel like every one of us had that equally. And I felt like every one of us needed that in order to win the battle against the Furious Four.
So if you guys won, do you think you would have been a solo artist?
Was it even possible during that time to be?
You know, there were a few solo artists around that time. You know, Busy B. Starsky.
Oh yeah.
I don't know, because I guess from being you know, the Funky Four being my first group experience. I mean, I was in a group before the Funky Four, but it was a singing group, and you know, it didn't go anywhere. It was just in school. So then, when I got in the Funky Four, we started actually doing. Oh, pardon me. Maintenance to install. I'll be right with you.
No, we got the thing called editing. We're good.
I don't think I might even edit this stuff. I think it just needs to be right in it. Like real, even the digital glitch, I might put a little bit of that, you know, that TV thing in between. I'll probably just do that, just technical difference. You know, a few moments later or whatever I may do. But this stuff, nah, man, you have to keep all this stuff in. This is good. This is good. Oh,
this is good. This is good stuff, man. Good conversation. This is good, man. I love it.
Yeah, man. Like, well, once again, just like even like Richmond said, in the same way I say, man, we can't thank you enough for these things, man. For real, like, cannot thank you enough. Like, real talk, man. Like, yeah, as you can tell, I've juiced all the way back up.
I know, man. Was it like 11, almost 11:30 your time?
Yeah, it's almost 11:30. About 3 minutes there. It's fine, man.
No,
I'm all for it,
man. This is beautiful, man.
Yeah, he's fully on building works and everything, isn't it?
Getting it in, man. Home improvement style.
But this is what I'm saying, man. This is this is what real life looks like behind the scenes, fellas.
Yes.
This isn't no IG business.
Yeah, this is not this ain't
Mic
reality
drop.
TV. You can't make this shit up.
You
This
just
is
missed
not
the mic drop.
reality
In fact,
TV.
it's not a two, and you just missed the mic drop number 2. I was like, I like that. It was a fling. It was a fling. It was a fling.
Right.
Look at the wrist.
So,
I mean, one thing I just wanted to ask, you know, what was it like being so also tapping into Ishmael's thing, but as well, but because obviously you didn't have records out, it was only tapes at a point, but yet your name was enough where, you know, this gang that's been on your, you know, your backside for like 3 years effectively, all of a sudden recognize. What was it like being like, I suppose like where ones would claim it, but a hood celebrity? I think that's the best, not in a negative way, but like if you're talking like you're rocking crowds like that, like to the fact that people are fully behind you, that's a different sense of community. We don't, obviously that's different as now.
Let me tell you, like there was a time, and this was before we made any records yet. There was a time when I couldn't talk to a woman in the Bronx. Like I couldn't go up to a random chick walking down the street in the Bronx and say, hey, how you doing? My name is Rahiem. You know, can I get your number or whatever? Because the word was out that Rahiem was dating a girl named Mommy. So, and I mean, when I say the word was out, I mean, it seemed like every chick I approached for like 6 months was like, yo, wait a minute, Rahiem. Why that name sound familiar? Wait, Rahiem down with Breakout? Yeah. You mess with Mommy. She live in Edenwald. Nah. I'm like,
she stay ready.
Right. I'm like, oh, shit. Yo, all right. We broke up. Nah, no, y'all didn't. No, y'all didn't. And she crazy.
I'm just saying, real talk.
She out there smoke.
For real, in the hood, that was like the first Twitter. For real, that was Twitter.
Yeah, that is for real.
Twitter, for real.
Social media.
I mean, yeah, exactly. Before social media, there was tags. If you see a tag on the wall for someone, and them names ring bells, you leave them the hell alone.
Yeah.
Like, nah, she crazy, he crazy. Don't want no part of it. Oh man, but it's like really is like a full life. But I mean, Ishmael did actually have a, you know, like you said, you know, going back to it, it's like you wouldn't know. Obviously, if that whole course of things, everything happens for a reason, I suppose, when you want to look into the grander scheme of things.
Right.
But he does raise a good point as well, because I mean, in this, now referring back to sort of like the Get Down, because, you know, watching that is obviously it's a more of a theatrical tale of it. The way I look at it is like a hip hop musical done right. Like that's the way I resonated with it, and that's why I found it so enjoyable. Like getting to know the characters, but then also, you know, doing the research to know who was really there, who wasn't kind of there.
Right.
But even the construction of all of that, because I mean, there's already a lot of, and now I suppose in the last few years, you know, Sugar Hill gang themselves have started to reveal that not even the lyrics that they were spitting, first of all, you know, wasn't even supposed to be theirs, and you know, take Jack and Rhymes, and then this whole thing kind of exploded.
Right.
But in a sense of, you know, working on the Get Down, what was it like, you know, working with Noel? Because he's one of the next people, like one of the people definitely I would love to interview, because he's like gold dust when it comes to wanting to get to like have like this kind of experience with. But you know, working with him, and then obviously, like, you know, at this point working with Grandmaster Flash, and there's a few other big names that you've worked with on that whole production. I know a lot of us are upset because we know that there's a very low chance it's ever gonna get renewed, or, you know, the story may continue. But that's all for us. It is what it is, but it's still a beautiful tale as it is. What was that experience like for you, though? Like having part of your history, your contributions now being brought to the silver screen, if you want to put it in that way.
It was like watching my life flash before me.
Oh, okay.
if you never had the opportunity, like if you didn't grow up during that era and never had the opportunity to go to a Grandmaster Flash and the Furious Five concert or Park Jam or see us perform at a club like the T Connection before we made any before we recorded any records. The Get Down would have been the closest thing that you could get to being there.
Okay.
Like there were parts in the Get Down that like it made me cry.
Wow. Yes, well, me, I wasn't even there, but it got me teared up too.
It tugged at my heartstrings. Certain parts of the Get Down tugged at my heartstrings because it made me reminisce about how it was. And what we meant to our community when right before we started making records. Like right before we started making records, we were doing 3 clubs in one night. Before we ever made a record.
A stamina there.
Yeah, just word of mouth and giving out flyers, and the flyers had our pictures on it. We go around to every high school in New York City. We take a OJ.
Yeah.
The OJs would be playing our party tapes. We take stacks of flyers and go to every high school in New York City, and now every girl in New York City knows what we look like because our pictures are on the flyers. We are actually the guys who are giving out the flyers.
Yeah.
What could be better than that?
Real talk. And what I love about that generation is that, like sports, you know what I mean? You have a farm system, and you guys had a farm system. You had to work your way out to actually make an album.
Exactly.
So can you talk about that a little bit more too? Because I think that's important.
That was like, we were a farm team basically during that period, and we just kept training basically, which was doing parties. I think one of our biggest parties that we did before we had any hit records. Oh man, 1 second. I need to plug my laptop in, or are we going?
Yeah,
that's all right. Or we're gonna have to do like a B continue.
Right.
Yeah. Part 2 coming soon.
Right. So one of the places that we played before we made any records, well, matter of fact, we made one record and it wasn't a hit, but it was marginally successful. Like everybody in the hood knew it. It was Super Rapid, and everybody in the hood knew it because we were popular. Right. And so when they heard that we made a record, all of the people who knew us went out and bought the record. But it never got played on the radio, during that time, and so we were still a farm team. Right. And so it just so happens that during that time, record company executives started hanging out at hip hop jams because they heard that this was a trending new thing.
Right.
So there was this dude, for lack of a better description, I'm going to call him the bootleg Terry Lewis. not to be confused with my legendary brother Terry Lewis from the successful production team of Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis. Not that one. So this is bootleg Terry Lewis. So the bootleg Terry Lewis lived in the projects. He lived in more houses in the Bronx.
Right.
And, he came to our jam and said he was a record producer, and he was the A&R for a record label called Brass Records. and that they were interested in signing us. So we wanted to make a record, and so we got some of our friends together who had a band, and we took them in a studio in our neighborhood, and we recorded an interpolation of Stephanie Mills' song "Put Your Body in It."
Right. Okay.
And so we put our lyrics on that. We recorded our lyrics to it, and we delivered the master tape to the bootleg Terry Lewis. And then I don't know, maybe I would say about a month and a half later, I was walking through a shopping area in the Bronx called Fordham Road, and there was a record shop on Fordham Road, and they had the speakers outside sitting on the ground, like some big speakers, and they were playing music outside, and it was the summertime or whatever, and I was actually on my way to meet with the rest of the guys from the group so that we could rehearse. And so as I'm about to pass by the record shop, I hear our new song, being played on the speakers out this record shop. So excitedly, I go in, and there's a long line. So by the time I had to get on the back of the line, so by the time I get to the counter and actually get to ask for the record had gone off. So I have to ask the guy behind the counter. I'm like, yo, let me get a copy of that song that you just played by Grandmaster Flash and the Furious Five. And he looked at me like I had 7 heads and was like, who? I said, the song that it was just playing. I said, by Grandmaster Flash and the Furious Five. He was like, oh, nah. He was like, you're mistaken. That song is not by Grandmaster Flash and the Furious Five. I said, what? What are you talking about? I said, I just heard my voice on that record. I said, I'm one of the members of that group. The name of my group is Grandmaster Flash and the Furious Five, and that's our new record. You just played it. How you gonna tell me that that's not by Grandmaster Flash and the Furious Five? He's like, yo, look. And he hands me the record, and I look at the label, and it does not say Grandmaster Flash and the Furious Five. It says the younger generation.
So Rob Bootleg definitely done ripped you off, didn't it?
The bootleg Terry Lewis, he was bootleg and he was bootlegging.
Oh wow.
So
I had to start from somewhere.
I bought a copy of it, and I rushed to rehearsal. And when I got to rehearsal, I showed it to the group. We immediately decided that we were going to go confront the bootleg Terry Lewis. So we walked from Flash's house on Cypress and St. Anne's to more houses. And when we get to Terry Lewis's building, we go upstairs in the elevator, get in front of his door, ring his doorbell. And when we rung his doorbell, we noticed that the lock cylinder was missing. And when one of the guys pressed the doorbell, the door actually flung open. And all his furniture and everything was gone. And we never seen the bootleg Terry Lewis again. And we never paid a dime for that record.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
To this very day. I couldn't even tell you where the hell Brass Records is. I don't know.
Oh. I suppose that's the thing you always hear about, especially when you're hearing the stories about the hustlers out there who are looking to hustle off whatever you're producing.
Yeah, they probably swimming with the fishes. Nobody know.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's true.
Right. Yep.
But wow, that's incredible. It is incredible.
Yep.
So then touching on to that as well. Then, so what was like the experience like putting together your first full, project with Grandmaster Flash and a Furious 5 when you're not dealing with, you know, bootleg Mr. Lewis, but, you know, actually doing it on a...
You mean like our first album project?
Yeah.
So our first album project was recorded, you know, with Sugar Hill Records, Sylvia Robinson, and right, and when we before we made any hit records with Sylvia Robinson and Sugar Hill Records, we would take cabs from usually OJ's from the Bronx to Inglewood, New Jersey, and she would pay for the cars. I mean, she would pay for the cab. So, but coming back from Inglewood, going back to the Bronx when it was time for us to go home, every single cab driver that we used leaving Inglewood, New Jersey, back to the Bronx, we used Inglewood car service.
Right.
And every driver who worked for Inglewood car service, when we got in the car, they would be like, yo, we hope y'all didn't sign no contract with Sylvia Robinson and them, because they are crooks and y'all are going to get ripped off, because they ripped off every single artist that's ever been signed to them.
Oh,
every
wow.
single cab driver. When a cab driver is telling you that
Listen.
Yeah.
Rajesh has got the answers.
Exactly.
Oh wow! So I mean, because obviously you then moved from was it Sugar Hill Records and then was it to Electronica, wasn't it? That you yeah. So then that's where you obviously transisted over. So
right.
They weren't half lying, because as we all know,
they weren't lying at all. We never got paid any royalties at all when we were
nothing.
Sugar Hill Records. Never ever got one single royalty check. We only got advances. We never ever got a royalty. We didn't even know what royalties were. When we signed to Elektra, the very first piece of money that they gave us was our recording budget, and so they gave us $180,000. That was our first recording budget. Yo, we went absolute crazy. We went so crazy because Sugar Hill didn't give us no $180,000. They didn't give us a dime for our budget. All they did was make the studio available to us and then told us how much the studio time was when they charged us for it, and recouped it from our royalties that they never paid us. Right? So when we signed with Elektra, and they actually paid us royalties and gave us a recording budget, and then we had, we got publishing, we got mechanical, like I get like 5 or 6 different types of royalties now. But when I was signed to Sugar Hill, I didn't get one. So.
Oh man, I think that's the craziest thing, and that's why I appreciate these conversations and your time for it as well. Is like the fact that it's never been black and white at all, ever. Like the fact that you guys had to go through all of this in order for there to be some form of stability. And then even then, that's still not even transparent, because once again, the labels are still like 360 deals. There's like so many other ways that they're trying, because you've got like the SoundCloud rappers now. You've got people that can literally just make it off their own. And if you've got your own building, I mean, one of the key things here in the UK that we always comment about is that in the States, you can literally just be big in your state. And you can be sorted. No one else ever know you at all.
You can become a multi-millionaire just based on the people in your own backyard.
Yeah,
you go.
If they support you, if you have the support of home, really that's all you need to be successful.
Yeah.
on that note,
Yeah.
this production behind me, it has to go on. It has to happen.
Yeah, we know. Appreciate it. We appreciate it.
So we can revisit this conversation. Just let me know. Give me the heads up as to when you want me to come back on the show, and it's all good.
Yeah, we can do that. Yeah, definitely.
Right.
So if anything, let's just work for the we'll work for the New Year's, but at least for everything you've given, thank you so much for your time. I seriously can't thank you enough, and your history as well. When this is up, we'll send you the links as per usual. But once signing out, so once again, No Name Podcast. Thank you very much for tuning in. If you stayed locked in for this amount of time, thanks once again. Peace to the God, MC himself, Rahiem. Ish, always a pleasure, as you know. Till next time, Juju signing out. I'm Hip Hop, High Creativity 1.
Peace.
Peace.